Hello again, this is Kelly Borsheim, and I'm going to start another pastel drawing, and we're going to go from the beginning to the end of the process like we did before. So now, what I wanted to show you is that I have transferred the design onto this piece of paper. It's a sanded paper. I don't remember the brand actually. I mounted this many years ago to a piece of foam core, so it's solidly connected to that. And I decided that I wanted to try to really not just be so haphazard in my studying of colors. So what I'm going to do is use the exact same palette that I used for the lavender and grasses piece that I just finished. And so you can see I've got the whites, cold and warm. I've got light and down to dark yellows, cold and warm. And then I've got a series of greens, cold and warm. Most of these are mid-tones. And then I have a pink, a magenta, and some purples, lights, darks, cooler and warmer. And then the series of blues that I love so much, the deep, really intense popping blues that I love to put into the darks especially. And then I have this set of unison darks. And I find I like this. It could be that because this is a scene of a Venice boat. I don't know if you could tell that in the video. This is a boat here, and these are the piers that they have. That's another boat. That's some stuff on the boat, and whatever. And then I have a bunch of the reflection waves going on in here. That'll happen. It could be that I've got too many darks in here, but I usually like to have a high contrast piece. So for that reason, I don't know, I may need to end up adding things to it, but right now what I want to do is try to maximize the palette and see how far I can push something. And then once I get things on there, I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know, push the limits or something. Because again, I'm trying to push myself into a different direction. And I realize that although my drawing is fairly precise, I want to use it just as a guide. In fact, I decided for this project that I'm not going to use any reference material. I have my drawing, and I'm going to fill things in and put the colors as I think I want them to make it. I don't know, I want to just push myself out a little bit. So let's see where we're going to go with this. Stay tuned, there's more coming. Okay, now I want to give this a little bit of a critique because I'm feeling a little bit lost, and when I started to realize why I'm feeling lost, I thought, okay, time to regroup, figure out what I'm doing, and let's see what it. And first of all, I'm losing a little bit of what's the subject of this, what is the point of doing this thing, and I started off thinking, okay, the boat's going to be the subject, and I want the cold colors on this side, the blues and the purples, cold greens, and then I want the warms up here to sort of do what I've seen some of the artists do, is they group together the rainbow colors, I guess. I started to feel like, no, I want some oranges in here and stuff like that. And then I realized, no, my whole point with this exercise here is to stay with the same palette that I did on the last painting until I honestly really feel like I can't get very far. What I ended up doing, though, is changing my mind a little bit with that, because that's the nature of myself. And I started to add these light blues, because I realized that the blues that I had in my palette were dark. And so I felt there was a limit that I could do to get contrast and still stay in the colds. I didn't have quite the right things for it. You can see I've added this teal, the turquoise green here a little bit, but it wasn't doing what I wanted for it. So I told myself, okay, as long as I stay with the same palette and just change basically the tone of the hue and just keep going, then maybe I'm still going to be able to learn a lot about colors. And I found myself challenged with these poles here for the boats, because they're more kind of a blue or a gray in the shadows, and they're more of a brown in the sunlight up here. And I don't really have a brown in my palette per se. But I decided that the thing that's really difficult to do, for me anyway, is to make a decision and stick with it, because I keep thinking, yeah, but I want to do this, I want to do that. The problem is that when I think I want to try to experiment and do something new, I find myself making decisions to go back to what's safe and what I know to do. And so that's where I am right now, where I think, oh yeah, but I don't necessarily want these colors to be realistic based. Therefore, I want to go ahead and stick with my original idea. And if it's a failure, it's a failure, who cares? But I started looking at this again and thinking, are the two boats here really the subjects, or is it the reflection of the water I wanted as subject? But what seemed evident to me is that I'm losing a little bit of the tonal composition idea, like the notan, where is my eye going? I could see in the back here that there were some shadows from just the buildings causing them and stuff like that. And the water is darker than it is up here. And of course this light with the dark makes the nice contrast with this. But I'm not yet convinced that I have an actual composition here. It's starting to look like I'm just putting these scraggles here to fill in lines for my drawing. And that's not really helping me, because I want to be grouping them more into an idea. And also I had told myself at the beginning, if I like how this turns out, and I like the composition enough, then what I can do is try to go in and make a copy of this, except that I don't want to do the drawing so much. I want to leave it more as a loose thing and start making an absolutely abstract painting. Because as realist painters know, we start off creating a realism looking drawing on a flat surface by creating shapes and things that mimic what we see in real life. And we start off with an abstract shape of maybe an oval, and then we start refining the oval, and then cut it here, and then go in here, and then out again here. And all of these angles and all these decisions that we make are what we call design or drawing, because in Italian they're the same word, which is interesting because we don't see them as the same thing. But like I said, the thing I'm trying to go away from is that when I went to art school to learn how to have my hand speaking to my eye and speaking to my brain, or actually the eye speaking to the brain speaks to the hand, to make a mark I intend to make. The problem with a lot of these schools are they teach you how to copy what's in front of you. And I don't want to do that. I want to learn how to design. If I could go back into my life, I would have known I was going to be an artist regardless, and started a little bit earlier into it. But I never saw it as a practical thing. I always thought art would be in my life, but I didn't think about having it be my life kind of thing. So anyway, I look back and I think illustrators learn instantly how to communicate, how to design, they learn so many things, and they draw every single day. So I think it would have been nice if I would have developed a habit like that. So now I am 57 years old now, and I'm trying to figure out what I really want to do with the art and the talents and all the education that I've had. seriously, because artists continue studying and studying and studying. Maybe everybody does, and I just don't know it because I am this. But do you see it's just starting to lose any kind of organization there. There's some green there, and there's a little green there, and then there's a little yellow there, and a little yellow there, and it looks like I'm just making random mark makes. And even though I said in an earlier video that it's very difficult for our brain to be random, I mean, these were conscious choices, but it's kind of like when somebody's not very popular and you say to them, you're trying too hard, you're trying to make everybody happier, you're trying, in this case, I'm trying to balance the yellows here and yet keep them all on this half of the painting. It might work in the end, but I don't feel like it's working now. So I'm trying to go back to the essence of the image and why did I like it? Why did I want to paint it? What do I feel about it? And stop worrying about these simple little details here when I need to get the context back into this, okay? So I'm going to keep drawing and let you see in the Zoom stuff because I imagine that's not really a spectator sport. But I just thought I'd explain a little bit from this point on what it is I'm attempting to do. All right? Happy watching. Ciao, ciao. All right, so I am a person of contradictions, except not really. What I decided was to add these colors to the palette because the yellows that I have here are cold yellow. Do you see that? And now I've added a bunch of warm, but they're also a little bit darker. And I did a sort of, I wanted to get some light warm greens, but then I decided really what I want to do is use the greens to push things back. So I have midtones. I've added a cold and a warm. And then I added some neutrals. A dark gray, a kind of a bluish white, and because I couldn't find a gray white, I mean a light gray. I probably have that upstairs actually. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do on that. So I've added that to this, plus a bunch of the blues that I still have. But this is my addition, and we'll see how it goes here. These are tending a little bit in the direction of oranges, so maybe my little wee bit of compromise. You see this? Okay, but it's a dark, nice, rich yellow. And we'll see, maybe I feel very different about that. We'll see how I add to it there, the little zing there. So let's go on and start painting. Do you see already it looks like water because of the squiggles that I've been doing back and forth? It's kind of cool already, you know? It's obviously not done. I have a lot more work to do, but let's see to continue. Kind of like that washy look that's right in that texture there. So the rest of this needs to be a color to sort of push it back. And I'm not really sure that that's that blue. Maybe add some of this blue-green. And I'm not really sure where my composition ends because I don't see my crop marks. I usually put crop marks on the mask, but I'm pretty sure that the paper is far larger than the mat, but still I'm just gonna fill in some of this stuff. And I'm really enjoying the interaction of the color there. And maybe I need to put a wee bit of so forse qualcosa. Yeah, maybe that was just too much. Not really a thing. So what do I want to do with this corner? Maybe put in some gray. Alright, so where did I put that gray? There's that gray. It's too dark. So, let's see. Now I'll go ahead and put it in and then add some white to it later. I just sort of want to knock this down a bit. It's interesting because you have to have the neutrals really to help the colors really seriously pop out, although they pop pretty well on their own, but that's because, frankly, they're on a white background, aren't they? So that's your neutral. How about that? I didn't contradict myself. All right, so let's take this blue white and fill in some more of this. Put in. And, okay, so here we go. Now, actually, I like that more than I did before. I think I'm going to have to add some more to the boat to give it a feeling of depth, because right now I don't have that feeling. And in this, I want to pretty much just knock down the white of the paper here. And let's go into that. So that's kind of cool. And this yellow thing is standing out as a solid flat surface, so I want to give it a more of a neutral yellow. I don't want to use that same yellow I used before. Maybe I'll use this one, but I feel as though this is a little bit too bright. So let's go in and add some of this here. See, it's a little bit too much, isn't it? Let's put in some kind of, given an idea that there's some kind of form going, but then I think it needs to be maybe this neutral kind of a gray-green thing going on here. And we'll have that, and then let's give this a change of tone. It can be bright yellow there, but as it goes toward the back, we'll have it do some of that sort of thing. And then this color has to come in here. And how about put a wee bit of this yellow on this side of the pole. And oh, it's kind of interesting. I don't know what's going on there, how I feel about it, but okay, so let's do a little more to have this pole coming in like this, maybe. And where's my neutral? Is that my neutral thing? So the neutral is just a little bit too dark, right? But let's keep going like this and see what happens. Add maybe, I want to add some purples, but I don't know if maybe the purple's just too, maybe add a warmish green. That's kind of a cool green, but wait a minute, maybe that is a color I want. And how about this sort of a neutral grayish green? Let's put some of that next to this and see what happens. Right at the transition line. You see how I'm doing that? I don't know what I think about it. You know, it's not brain surgery, is it? Goodness. I don't know that I would want somebody depending on me for their brain to survive. Alright, so then let's put a bit of a neutral water thing here. This is a nice, different blue, isn't it? And let's continue this all the way down. Put this, because it seems like I don't have enough stuff going on the bottom of this page here. And alright, so I want to add, again, have this pole come straight down here. Add a little bit of white from this boat, which is actually a purple. So let's put in a little bit more light into that. And then we can add some squiggles from a light shape down here. And break up these lines a little bit and put in some of this. Maybe I don't want it to be quite that bright there, but I think I'm going to see what happens. Is it coming along? What do you think? Add your comments below. Thank you. Stop shooting a bird at you. That's pretty. I like this though. Okay, a little critique time. When I finished last night, because I don't get very much time to work on these sadly, but anyway, when I finished last night, I turned the light off and I took one last look at this before I left the room and went to do on the other things that I have to do. And what bothered me the most, because I'm always doing worst first, is I didn't like how parallel this shape was, because the fact that it was so consistent struck me as boring. And then I realized what the problem is. The problem is that this doesn't have the shape of a boat. A boat is very curvaceous, as you know. And you can see on this side it's very curvaceous, and here it's pretty much a straight line. So I've got to come in a little bit here and pull this around and then open this up a little bit to give it that round hole shape, or maybe that's not called a hole shape, but you know what I mean. And then figure out how to develop the boat. And you know, I like losing the line here between the boat and the water, but it could be that I've got to develop just at least the top, so that maybe this needs to go back further straighter, because this part will be parallel even though it's bowed like a barrel. It'll still be parallel here, but at this point I need this to be sort of there. So, and anyway, this shape is what triggered me to look for what was wrong, and it had to be something wrong with the shapes, okay? So that's what I'm going to be working on today, is fixing that a little bit. So here we go. I want to keep the line separate here between this pole and this. And I like that texture though. I don't want to get rid of all that texture. I have said before I want to err on the side of all soft lines instead of all hard lines, but at the same time and place for everything. What do you think? It's kind of fun, isn't it? I love painting in the rain. Of course, I pretty much love doing everything in the rain. Just fun. Alright, so there's enough realism in this thing that I need to make sure I'm not being too crazy with that. And the thing that's bothering me at this point is I've got to remember reflections belong because there's something above it reflecting into it. And the only way you can get away with not doing that is if you don't show the object. For example, this yellow here should be straight down because you see everything else is straight down. It's not that the reflections are shifting over because the sun is down. The sun's high up in the sky, and so the reflections are going straight down with this. So right now, this bit of yellow here makes no sense because it's too far over here. So I can either add another yellow thing here, which could be an idea, or I can remove this and do something else up here. But man, I really like the blue here. I don't necessarily like these two colors together. I know it's a common thing people do. I think I worked in the photo labs too much with blue background, yellow type back in the 90s. And I just am biased against it, to be honest. I'm kind of liking this swishy splash of this warm green with these cools, and actually warm purples and blues, but still, I like them. I mean, this is too cold, and I don't like having this block the difference between cold and warm. That doesn't make any sense. So I think I should throw over a bit of warm into this. Maybe in the transitions right there here. Now, this is slightly angling to this way, so I want to make this slightly angle this way. Okay. And I'm not super sure that I want the black there. I should go into a darker blue-green maybe. I want to get rid of some of this yellow so that it goes over this way. Do it. Trying to get the feeling this boat is reflected in the water here. I don't feel like I'm getting the idea that's the end of the boat. And this. There's another end. Trying to get this reflection here. Maybe. And this dark purple. Is too strong. I'll knock this down with it. And to do like this now that it's much lighter. It was too contrasty before. It was pulling the eye straight back here. And this may now be developing as a little bit too contrasty, so I want to put in a little more depth into this rope thing. Not have it pull out so much, but it needs to be thin so it looks like a rope. And yeah, can be there, they just don't need to be so strong. And some darks. Note how I'm using my pinky finger there to secure my position on the paper because I'm drawing something rather specific and I don't want to make a mark where I don't want to make a mark, you see. So now that looks very thick. I'm going to come up here and take that back down. I don't know if that reads well or not. I may have to sit on that for a while. May splash some of this green glue in here. I want it to be nebulous, but I was thinking a solid dark was not in the cards there. Again, I want to imply that there are objects back there, but I don't need to spell it out. And then let's take this other dark blue to give it a nice zing zing. I want these two blues really lovely together. That is pretty juicy. Now, do I need to... I was trying to get some sort of horizon in here again. Just, I don't want to try too hard, but I needed that horizon, you see? This horizon right here, I need that to sort of break the distance there. I need a darker blue. Okay. Anatomy of a boat. This boat's not working. These should be parallel, or at least have the feel that they're parallel. Alright, so I'm going to start with this part here. Find out where my tip is. Maybe I don't need to exaggerate that.